Guys, so today I wanted to talk about a very brand new topic that I haven't talked about, but I feel it's very important. I applied to a lot of schools this year, and I, for one, know how harsh this topic is, financial aid. So, guys, what is financial aid? So, financial aid is essentially the financial or monetary help a university gives to its students. And this will vary based on the amount of income you have, the number of children in your household, and numerous other factors. Um, and you'll see why I think this is a seriously rigged system later. But right now, let me just sort of simplify that definition. So, financial aid is essentially the ETC minus the minus the the ability to pay. I'll just call it that here. Um, so ETC is not electron transport chain. It's actually estimated total cost. So the estimated total cost minus the ability to pay. And the ability to pay is measured with so many different factors again, the number of children in your household, how many of them going to college, um, are your parents divorced, are your parents together, and what are the age of your parents? Yeah, so it's a variety of different factors that go into determining financial aid. However, however, here is there's a significant problem with financial aid, and this is just in my opinion. Let me show you something. Let me get my Windows Journal here. Okay, so say in our economy, essentially, we have three types of people. We have the wealthy sector, and this is like upper class people. We have the middle class, and we also have a pretty large number of poor people, or well, lower class people. I wouldn't say it's greater than the number of wealthy people. I don't know that for sure, but it's a pretty large number. Staggering, to be honest. Um, so here's the thing. Say we were talking about a university, let's say an Ivy League, let's say Princeton. So Princeton over here, and let's say the lower class would be less than $40,000, about $40,000 income. Of course, it's not as simple as this, but because they measure assets and stuff like that. But essentially, this is how it works. And let's say the middle class would be like maybe 100,000K ish, 100 greater between 40,000 and although I'm pretty sure it's a little different, but between 40,000 and 120K, 120, 100, I'd put maybe 140, 150, because there's so many families with 140 and 150K that still can't manage to um, pay for these schools. So 150K, and then the wealthy sector we're gonna put 150 or over. It's not exactly like this. It's not exactly like this. But in essence, from the way I see it, this is the way it works. I might be wrong. I might not have all the facts correctly. There are more factors that go into financial aid than just the amount of income that you make, of course. I told you the number of students in your family, sure. But take the major issue in our financial aid system is that if you're lower class, and this part isn't an issue. It's a good thing. Essentially, if you're lower class, you get a full ride. So essentially, if you're lower class, this is one of the good places. One of the advantages you have to being lower class is you get a full ride. You don't have to pay for anything. If you get into Princeton, you get into Harvard, you get into Yale, you get into UCSD, you get into UC Berkeley. As long as you're lower class, sorry, please excuse that. That is actually the phone ringing. But you get the picture. If you're lower class, you do the hard work, you get the full ride. That's good. If you're wealthy, well, you have the ability to pay. You have the ability to pay. And the problem with our system is that if you're middle class typically and you are applying to so many of these top schools, you're screwed. So, why are you screwed? Here's why. Middle class people typically make about 40 to 150. Huh?
But cool lab will be overdue.
One second. Please excuse me. Here, close my door.
Did you forget what you have to do?
Sorry, that's my dad. Um, Middle class people typically make it's it, it's probably different limitations, but they make probably between 60 and 150K or so. And you might think that's a lot, but when tuition for some of these schools are costing like 60,000, 50,000, $60,000, that's actually a huge issue. And if you have two or more children, um, although they do factor the number of students in your home, and if two or more children actually go to college, as you'll tell later, that also becomes a problem because that's just more money to pay. Now, I did mention that they do factor in the number of students in the number of children in your household into the equation, but oftentimes it just still isn't enough, the amount of financial aid that you receive. So that's why a lot of middle class people actually end up being screwed, and they just don't have the amount of money, or they're just not willing to take out so many loans to go to a school like Princeton. And this is a significant problem in our society. Um, and a lot of people say it's just solved by not going to Princeton or not going to Stanford. But But you can't just say that, because these institutions exist for a reason, and if a student has actually earned his or her way into an institution like, say, Princeton, um, I think he or she deserves the opportunity regardless of what income bracket they come from. So it shouldn't really hurt you that much that you come from the middle class, or you come from the lower class, or you come from the wealthy class. Um, and again, this isn't exactly how it works. It's just what I've observed. There's probably much more to this. I am not a financial aid officer, but yeah, this is a significant problem. Another significant issue in our financial aid is that financial aid is all based on parents' ability to pay. So financial aid is based on parents' ability to pay. Now, why is this so unfortunate? The problem is not all parents pay. Not all parents pay. That's the thing. Parents don't actually have to pay. The government essentially thinks that the parents should pay, and that's true. In my opinion, I think that the parents should pay a certain amount or something. But not all parents actually pay. Some parents refuse to pay. Some parents refuse to pay for their students' college expenses. And this leaves a significant problem for students entering a college like a huge college like, let's say, Stanford or something. So if we go online and see Stanford's estimated cost, I'm pretty sure it's like in the 60,000s or something. Stanford estimated cost. Tuition itself is just $45,195, and that's just tuition. We're not talking about housing and everything. The total cost of attendance is $62,801. That's ridiculous. And so imagine you have $62,801 for the total cost. However, if the parent isn't paying, then you have to make up this entire difference. Or the difference between the amount of financial aid given and the total amount. So minus financial aid. And that can still be a lot at times. If you come from a middle class family, it's really weird. I applied to UCSD and I got in. Essentially, I got a $5,500 loan. That is it. Everything else was totally 100% I had to pay. And just to let you know, UCSD's tuition, it's like 59,000 per year. So that's a lot of money. And yeah, so one of the issues is that we actually determine financial aid based on the parent's ability to pay instead of parents actually willing to pay. And so in financial aid, you're either classified as a dependent or an independent. And a dependent is someone who is under the age of 24 or doesn't serve the military and doesn't serve the military. And an independent is someone who, there are more factors that go into this again, but essentially over the age of 24. That's what most financial aid systems classify independent or dependent as. But theoretically, you can actually be an independent person. Like, you can actually independently, you may have to independently finance your own, you may have to independently finance your own schooling, and that, but you may not be over the age of 24, and thus you're still classified as a dependent by FAFSA and whatever um, other organizations go into determining financial aid. And that's a problem, because if you're an independent, you research has somewhat shown that you may or may not get um, better financial aid, because you're one person, you only have a certain amount of ability to pay, and as such you probably would get better financial aid. But as a dependent, you have multiple people in your family who can pay, but who may not all be willing to pay. So that brings up a certain issue. If your parents aren't willing to pay for, let's say, Berkeley or something like that, then you're kind of screwed and can't go to Berkeley unless you can figure out some job that pays $60,000. So I just wanted to describe this system because it really bothers me how many middle class students um, can't afford to go to a top tier college despite making it in. And it also bothers me that that our system is based with our financial aid system. It 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 really assumes that the parent will pay, but not all parents do pay. And if you're one of those few whose parents don't pay, well then that's a certain issue, because the financial aid, essentially they might be sympathetic towards you. They might say, oh, we're sorry, but they can't do anything about that. By law, they have to go by whether or not your parents are able to pay, not whether or not your parents are going to pay. So parents, I highly encourage you to sit down with your child, ask them what university or college they plan on going to, and really try to come up with a financial plan that meets their needs. No, you don't have to pay for the entire amount of college. Try to see if your student can actually get a part-time job or something, but try to help them out here or there. I agree that I think that parents should help pay some, not all, but some of the difference. I think that is a responsibility for the parent. I truly believe that. But I also think that students should try their best to get a job and pay whatever amount they can pitch in. I think this is a two-way thing, or a three-way or four-way thing, depending on how many members you have in your family. And I think it's very important. It's very vital that students find a way to pay for college, whether or not they want to go to Stanford, or whether they want to go to University of Houston, which isn't a bad university at all. It's a really good university. But in terms of like how much it costs, University of Houston is like, for an in-state student like me, it's going to be like 20,000. Whereas if you want to go out of state or to some prestigious university, it's going to cost like 60,000 or something like that per year. So I think that it's very important, regardless of what university a student wants to get into, that we sit down and work out a financial plan to help that student. If that student wants to take out loans, there might be a certain issue with that, because apparently most students don't have credit. They don't have a credit card, and thus they don't have credit by the age of 18. So parents might have to co-sign for the loans. And when you co-sign, you're essentially taking the responsibility and saying, if my student does not pay off these loans, I will pay them off for him. Um, that's also another significant issue when you're having to take out so many loans. And you may say, just don't do that. But if you don't do that, you kind of can't go to the university you want to go to. I think it's a sort of a balance that the university you want to go to, finances, they all should be balanced. And you shouldn't just choose a university you don't want to go to, because you shouldn't have to choose a university you don't want to go to just because of finances. If you get the chance to go to a top tier or a big university that you worked hard for. So yeah. Anyways, that's my video. Thank you very much, and have a great day.